Hi you guys, it's Kari. So sorry I had to pre-record this because our internet is not always that reliable, so I didn't want the Facebook Live to freeze up on you. So we've recorded stuff here for you. I'm going to show you what we're making today. It's actually 3 different things. You can make them separately and eat them separately, but I think they go really nice together. So if you get a chance, try to test this out with your family and have a good time. And I'll flip the phone here and show you what we're making. So today I've shown you how to make strawberry sauce that can be used as a garnish on these yummy cinnamon chips, and then a tres leches cake, and that is Spanish for 3 milk. I may not be saying it correctly, but anyway, this is the final products of what we're making. So cinnamon chips, strawberry sauce, and tres leches cake. And got some sliced strawberries that we can use too. But I also wanted to read this verse with you. It's kind of fitting for today since we're working with food. This is from Genesis 1:29. Then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. And I just want to send out a prayer to everybody that is not doing well, that's in the hospital, or for families that have lost loved ones from the virus. And I just hope that you're all doing good and have a good time with your family. And post pictures if you make this recipe. Post pictures later. And also I'll be on Facebook at 2 o'clock tomorrow, or today, excuse me, Thursday, and to answer any questions. So anyway, before you start doing the recipes, make sure you wash your hands and have a good time. Okay, so for the cinnamon chips, you'll need a cooling rack with a paper towel underneath of it to catch the drips. And your choice of oil. I like to use coconut oil. It has a good flavor, or you can use canola oil or vegetable oil, avocado oil, whatever you have. You'll need a pizza cutter, tongs, or like a slotted spoon, and some tortilla shells. If you need gluten-free, you could use corn tortillas. And then also you're gonna need half a cup of sugar and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and a shaker if you have it. If not, you can sprinkle the cinnamon sugar on with your fingers, or you can put the chips in a bag and then put cinnamon sugar in the bag and shake it up from there. So, and you'll also need a medium to large frying pan to fry the chips in. Okay. So I have about half a cup of coconut oil in my pan that I have over medium-high heat that I'm starting to melt. Depending on the size of your pan, you may need a little bit more oil. You just want to make sure that it's about 1.5 to 2 inches deep of oil inside the pan to fry your chips. Okay, so taking our tortilla shells, I forgot to tell you need a cutting board. You want to cut it in half, and in half again. And you can fry them at this size, but I like to go a little bit smaller. So we'll cut it one more time, just like a pizza, get 8 of them. Or if you want, you can cut them into strips or any shape that you want. I always like to start with one to test my oil. Make sure that it's not too hot. If it's splattering really high, then you want to turn your heat down because you don't want to get burned. And if it starts to get a bubble, a big, huge bubble in it, you can just poke it with a fork. Kind of like you do with Papa Murphy's pizza. And it's getting a bubble, so I'm going to poke it. There we go. Okay, so we're going to put more than one in here now. I have my oil turned down a little bit because that was kind of too high. It only takes about 15 to 20 seconds on each side. See how it's light golden brown? That's how you want it. You just use the spoon to flip them. Or you can use a fork or tongs, whatever you have. You just place them on your cooling rack. Okay, so after you've fried your chips and they've cooled for a couple of minutes, I want to show you 3 different ways that you can get the cinnamon and sugar on them. So we have our half a cup of sugar and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. You probably won't use all of it, so you can save the leftovers for cinnamon toast for breakfast or something like that. So I have my little shaker, and I'm just going to sprinkle it on top. And if you want, you can turn them over and sprinkle the other side. I like to get both sides so it's nice and cinnamon sugary. Another option is you can just use your fingers and sprinkle it on. So we'll do that on these and the other side. Oop. Or you can put a couple of tablespoons in a bag, Ziploc bag, and close it up. And then you or one of your siblings or someone else in your family can shake it up. And then those are ready to go. I want to make sure you take them out of the bag though, because the other day when I tested these, I put them in a bag. And when I went to eat them later, they were really chewy because the bag gets like condensation in there and it makes them kind of soggy and chewy. And you don't want your chips to be soggy and chewy, you want them to be crispy. So I'll take those out of the bag. So those are ready to go. And then I'll show you in a little bit how to garnish them with strawberry sauce that we're gonna make. And it can also be a garnish that we're gonna put on top of a piece of our Tres Leches cake that we're gonna make. Or you can just eat these plain if you want. Okay, you guys, so for the strawberry sauce, we're gonna use about 2.5 cups of fresh strawberries, or you can use frozen. When you use frozen, don't worry about thawing it. It just takes a little bit longer to cook in the pan, but you can also use frozen. These strawberries I got today at QFC. Don't they look yummy? They're really big and fresh from California. It says Santa Maria, California. Anyway, you'll need a cutting board, a paring knife, a wooden spoon, some vanilla extract, cornstarch, lemon juice, water, and sugar. And I'll have, again, an attachment that says the list of how much of each ingredient. Can't wait to make this. It's so yummy. So this is a sauce that's really good to go like on top of cheesecakes and other cakes like we're making today as kind of a garnish though. I have a separate recipe for strawberry filling, which is a lot thicker, that we can do another time, and that's for to use as a center in cupcakes or a filling in a cake. But this is a runnier sauce that's great on cheesecake, or drizzle on top of cakes, and also we can drizzle it on top of our cinnamon chips. So there you go. Okay, so you want to make sure that you rinse your strawberries. And then we're going to cut the tops off. Okay, so I'm going to start with cutting the top of the strawberry off and then slicing the long way. Now these we're going to save to use as an extra garnish on top of the cake. But the ones for the strawberry sauce, I'm just going to cut the tops off and just cut them in half. because we want the sauce to have some chunks of strawberry in it. So just cut your strawberries in half and measure out 2.5 cups. And then those 2.5 cups of strawberries will go in your pan. And I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so we're gonna start making our strawberry sauce. Again, I did slice a few of them to reserve for garnish later. I have the 2.5 cups of strawberries that are sliced in half in the pan, and we wanna add 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of water, and then a tablespoon of lemon juice. You can use bottled lemon juice, or if you have fresh lemons on hand, you can squeeze a lemon and have fresh lemon juice. That's really good. Don't add the vanilla yet, that's for later though. So anyway, over medium heat, you want to cook this for about 12 minutes. Okay. Okay, so with video magic, about 12 minutes time has passed, and my strawberries are looking nice here. Kind of boiling a little bit. Again, this is over medium-high heat. You want to take the wooden spoon, the back of the spoon, and kind of smash the strawberries a little bit. Now when you get all done with the strawberry sauce, if you don't like the chunks of strawberries in it and you want it to be a really smooth sauce, you can go ahead and add this mixture to a blender and puree it and make it really smooth. But I like to have some chunks of strawberry in it. Okay, so I went ahead and added 2 tablespoons of cornstarch to 2 tablespoons of water, stirred that together and poured it in the strawberry mixture. And then you want to turn it off the heat, add the teaspoon of vanilla. Be careful when you're adding your vanilla, you want to pour it to the side. If you pour it into your teaspoon and you accidentally spill it, then you can get too much in there. So make sure you measure off to the side. Okay, we're gonna let this cool and then we'll use it on top of our cake and on our cinnamon chips. Okay, so I decided I wish I would have started with the strawberries cut a little bit smaller because it's kind of strainy looking and I want it to be a little bit prettier and smoother than that. So I'm gonna go ahead and puree it. So go ahead, after it's cooled a little bit, you can put it in your blender. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and blend this a little bit and make it more of a smooth sauce. I think that'll be better, look nicer. See how that looks so far. Oh yeah, this is way better. Let's see how that looks, folks. Oh yeah, that's much better. That's gonna look a lot nicer on top of our chips and on top of the cake. We just had to do that. Okay, so this is what you need for the tres leches cake. And that means, in Spanish, that means 3 milk cake. This is a recipe that I got years ago in Wisconsin when my daughter was in Girl Scouts out there. They had a mock restaurant day and we got to work at a college there with the culinary staff, and they taught us how to make the tres leches cake. So it was really fun and it's really good. So you'll need a 9-inch cake pan, and it can be square or round. If you don't have that, an 8-inch is fine, but it might take a little bit longer to bake, so just make sure that you realize that different size pan, you'll need different baking time. Anyway, and then you need parchment paper to line in the bottom so it's easier to get the cake out. Baking powder, 5 eggs. Now we're going to separate those, so you'll need 5 yolks and 5 egg whites. Milk, sugar and flour, a mixer, and also a stand mixer like a KitchenAid if you have one. And then the very last thing is the 3 milks that we'll use on top of the cake. And that's going to be sweetened condensed milk, evaporated milk, and heavy whipping cream. Alrighty. So now we're going to prepare our pan, and we want to use parchment paper just in the very bottom of the pan. So I'm tracing with my pencil onto the parchment paper. And so I'll cut this out. You can stop. Okay, so I have my square piece of parchment paper go in the bottom, but before I put that in there, I take a pastry brush, or you can use a paper towel, and put shortening just on the inside part, not on the bottom, because that's our parchment paper will be there. If you don't have parchment paper, you can just grease the whole bottom, but I like parchment paper. It just releases from the pan really easy. So I just want to go along the edges and the inside here, a light coating of shortening, just like this. Just brush it on. I take about a tablespoon of flour, and just to save the flour, I just tap it around the sides so that the flour sticks to it, and this is going to help our cake release later after it bakes and cools. Just do it over your bowl of canister of flour. Tap that out like that. And then add your parchment paper to the bottom. Okay, so now we're going to separate our eggs. We need 5 egg yolks and 5 egg whites. So I've already done 3 of them. I'll show you how I do it. So just crack the side of the egg and then split it in half with your thumbs and use one half to hold it, and you just keep going back and forth like that and letting the white come down into that bowl, and then holding the yolk in the other half, put it into that bowl. So we just want to do that and get them all separated. Oops, and if you get, see what I did? If you get a little bit of yolk in there, just use the eggshell to scoop it out. It's not a big deal. Just scoop out the yolk. It happens sometimes. Okay. Okay, so now with our handheld mixer, we're going to beat the 5 egg yolks and 3/4 cup of sugar. I forgot to tell you guys that the cup of sugar in the recipe is actually divided. So 3/4 of it you use with the yolks, and then 1/4 of the sugar we'll use for something else later. So I'm going to add my 3/4 cup of sugar to my 5 egg yolks, and I'm going to beat this with the handheld mixer until it doubles in size. Or doubles in volume. Okay, so I've been mixing this probably for about 30 to 45 seconds or so. And if you look really close, the color has gotten lighter, and that's what you're looking for. You want it to be a lighter color and doubled in volume. So I'll probably mix it for about another 30 seconds. So now we want to add our 1½ teaspoons of baking powder. This is my ½ teaspoon, so we have half. 1, 1½ a teaspoon of vanilla. There's half. And 1/3 cup of milk. And a cup of flour. We don't want to use the blender for this. We want to use just a regular spoon to stir it in gently. And you just keep stirring until that's combined. Okay, so in our stand mixer, we're going to add our 5 egg whites. Or you can use a handheld mixer with a whip attachment or just regular beaters, whichever. Okay, and we want to turn it kind of on medium-high speed. And we're just going to whip these egg whites until soft peaks form, and I'll show you what that looks like. It's still not quite ready yet. It's been about 1.5 minutes or so. It's kind of frothy right now, but you want to keep going. We're not to the soft peaks yet. Okay, so one of the ways to tell it's getting close is if you look really close at the egg whites, you can see the impression marks from the whisk attach thing. So we'll stop right there, and I'll lift it up, and it should just have like a little soft curl on it, and that's a soft peak. So that's when we want to stop for a second, turn it back on, and slowly add a 1/4 cup of sugar, a little bit at a time. Just kind of sprinkle it in. And we want to keep mixing this on medium to high speed until we get kind of firm stiff peaks. And I'll show you what that looks like. Turn it up a little higher. About 9 or 10 now. We'll put our sugar in there. So let's check it here. Getting there. Still kind of soft peaks. We want it to be a little bit stiffer than that. Keep big messages cut. Kind of see it starting to get like little puffy pillows, kind of. Let's get close. Let's check it here. Turn it off. A little bit longer. Okay, so here we go. So it's not as curled, it's a little bit stiffer now. So I'm going to take it off and check it. See how it's kind of standing, and I wiggle it, it doesn't fall down or anything. So this is what we want. We're back to our egg yolk mixture. We want to take the egg whites and just gently set them into the bowl here. This is also what you would use for like a meringue. If you want to make like a lemon meringue pie, or just add meringue to one of your desserts. You can also add a little bit of vanilla too if you want to sweeten it. Okay, so we're going to fold in our egg whites into the egg yolk mixture. And folding it means you take your wrist and you actually just sort of fold like this. You don't want to stir it like this really hard, because all that air that you just incorporated into the egg yolks will break down and then your cake won't rise right. So you just want to gently fold in the egg whites. Once in a while I just gently scrape it off on the sides to make sure that I get them all incorporated there. And then after we fold this in, we'll add it to our cake pan and then get it in the oven. You just kind of want to keep folding until it's all kind of a light yellow in color and you don't really see any of the white egg white color in there anymore. So see how it's just kind of a pale yellow? It's okay to have a little bit of white in there, but you don't want it to be too much. So that's pretty good right there. So we're going to add this to our pan. Okay, so now we want to put our cake into the oven that's preheated to 350 degrees. Now the recipe says about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. I always set my timer for 10 minutes less, especially if it's a cake. Because all ovens are different, all pans are different. Depends if you're using a stoneware pan, a dark metal or light metal. So I'm gonna set the timer for about 35 minutes because it says 45. And that way I can check it with a toothpick and make sure it's done, because it's always easy to add time, but you can never take time away. So always set it for a little bit less. Remember, if you use a different size pan, if you use an 8-inch, you're gonna wanna have more time. If you use a bigger pan, like a 9x13, you'll probably use less time to bake your cake. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I took it out of the oven. I tested it with a toothpick in the center. And it came out perfectly clean. It's not wet, so it's good. And again, I'm glad I set less time than 45, because this only took about 35. My oven's a little bit on the hot side. So again, just make sure that you set your time for a little bit less than 45. I would say check it around 25 minutes, 30, 35. So we're gonna let this cool, and then we'll take it out of the pan. So our cake has cooled for about 10-15 minutes. And it did fall a little bit, that's fine. It's supposed to do that, it's no big deal. You wanna take a knife though, and you wanna go around the edges to make sure that you loosen it from the sides of the pan. And then you wanna find like a big platter of some kind, or any kind of plate that you have that has a lip on it. Because when we pour the milks on it, it has to sit for a while and soak up all the milk. So you don't want to have like anything that's flat, otherwise the milks will just run off onto the table. So you want to get something that has kind of a lip to it. So I'm going to use this big platter. And you want to put it on top and hold the sides of your pan, and then just flip it over. And see how nice that comes out, because we use the parchment paper. It's a little bit crooked, so I'll straighten that out. Now we can just pull off the parchment paper. And it's still a little bit warm, so I'm going to let it cool for probably about another 5 minutes. And now we're going to put all the 3 milks together. We have our sweetened condensed milk, a can of that. And a full can of evaporated milk. It's 12 ounces. Okay, make sure you only use a 1/4 cup of this whipping cream in your mixture, because the rest of it we're going to whip up to put onto the cake. Actually, I'm going to ask my cameraman, can you get me a whisk? Thank you. So you want to use a whisk for this, because the sweetened condensed milk is really thick, and it's kind of hard to get it to stir in evenly if you use a spatula. So a whisk works a lot better. So whisk those 3 together. And we want to pour 1 cup of it into a measuring cup. And the recipe says to not use this. So I usually save this for creamer for coffee or cocoa, or you could use it in a smoothie. So the rest of it, we're going to pour it over to the cake. But before we do that, we want to poke holes in it. So I usually use a fork. And this is kind of fun. You can just poke holes all the way through, kind of go in rows. Make sure you poke all the way to the bottom. This is kind of a good stress reliever, especially for right now in the quarantine. Kind of help you get out your frustrations a little bit. Take it out on the cake. Okay. So what you want to do is, after you poke a bunch of holes, is slowly pour the milk mixture over. And it'll slowly just sort of start, make sure you get it on the edges too. And don't worry if it looks really runny, like it's not soaking it up, it's just because it takes a little while. So we'll let this sit here for a little bit and soak it up, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so after you pour the milk on, which you want to pour it really slow, and just kind of let it sit for like, anywhere from like 15-20 minutes, and it'll just slowly absorb all the milk. And you don't have to use all the mixture. If you have a little bit left over, that's fine. But it'll actually look and feel really soggy, which seems weird, but that's how you want it, because it ends up being really moist. It's really, really good. And we're just gonna spread the whipped cream on top. We'll cut a piece, and then we'll garnish it with our cinnamon chips, strawberries, and strawberry sauce. So I just like to use a big spoon and kind of just go back and forth and spread it on like this, or if you want, you can use a piping bag with a frosting tip. I think it's easy to just use a big spoon, kind of turn your wrist and go back and forth like that. So we'll spread this on, and we'll get ready to have a piece. Okay, and there's our finished cake. You can also garnish it with raspberries or cherries or any other kind of fruit that you like, or just leave it plain and eat it like this. Okay, so now I put one of the cinnamon chips on top, and I'm just putting some of the strawberry slices. Get some of our sauce here. If it thickens up too much, you can add a little bit of water to it. Kind of just go like that. There we go. And it is ready to eat. I forgot to say, tune in next week, Thursday, April 9th, and we're gonna make a special Easter treat. And tomorrow, come back at 2 o'clock, Facebook Live with Joe, Adventures with Joe. Okay, see you guys. Bye.